In 2002, a band out of Bell County, Texas, Flyleaf, bursts on the mainstream rock and Christian metal charts with their self-titled debut release. After 3 successful records, singer Lacey Sturm departs the band to concentrate on raising her son with husband Josh, guitarist from the band Kairos. Since then, she's become an accomplished author and the first female to top the Billboard Hard Rock album charts with her solo debut release, Life Screams. In 2020, Lacey started releasing new music with the single The Decree, and now a new song in 2021 co-written by the members of Skillet called State of Me. In a personal and inspiring interview, we talk about the struggle of depression, faith, family, new music, and I reveal something I've never discussed in an interview. This is my personal interview with Lacey Sturm.
Hi, this is Lacey Sturm, and you're listening to 99 WNRR. Look at the state of me. You can't deny. Look at the state of me. Just get behind.
Hi, everybody. Welcome, and I'm really excited to talk to this woman again for the second time. Ladies and gentlemen, Lacey Sturm. Hi, Lacey.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Nice to see you again. Okay, you probably don't remember when you released Life Screams and toured on it, you made a stop in Asbury Park. I believe it was Stitched Up Heart and Letters from the Fire, and we spent a good 40 minutes. I interviewed you and your coach while you were sitting down to some soup, and I actually have a picture from that interview. Here it is.
Cool, yeah, okay. Yeah.
A big goatee later. Gone.
How are you doing?
You know, I'm doing okay, considering it's been, one insane year,
Yeah. Life is crazy right now, but there's cool things coming out of it.
Yeah, there is. There's so much great music. People are actually taking time with their records and really putting forth, I think, some of the best music that they've ever done. And this new track is no exception. The thing that I got out of this track is that this is a song for right now, for this moment. There are so many people out there that are dealing with, isolation, and then maybe a little bit of being self-absorbed within an isolation, which causes even deeper problems. But also within that, if you use the time correctly, can be used for real reflection.
Well, what else can you do when you're in the middle of chaos? I mean, you fall apart or you try to figure out what's going on, I guess, And I definitely did have that season, going through mental chaos, and having to, I didn't realize, you don't always realize where you're headed in your thoughts until you're in a really hopeless place and you're like, how did we get here? And looking back and realizing a lot of worse things have happened and I've done fine, and so what's going on now? And then when I, this year I lost somebody that was really, I feel like when I lost this person, I really took stock of what was in my own life. Why am I still here? Why am I still here? I think that we have to ask ourselves that when you lose people, you're like, I have another day for some reason. Why am I still waking up? And so thinking about what are you intentionally going to do with it, the time you have. And if you were to die and you were to face God and he was like, not your time, go back. What are you going to do with that time? Or would you like another day? What would you do with it?
Yeah, exactly. I think
so. We don't have to die to do that. We can just, and sometimes it takes somebody else to die for us to even acknowledge that it's a gift to have another day. Which I think for me, I kind of feel that way already because of my own history of why I'm even breathing. But also it made it hit me real hard. When you have kids, I think too, you forget that, you take things for granted sometimes personally because you kind of forget yourself and it's all about your kids. And then you realize, whoa, I need to make sure I'm okay too,
I know exactly what you're going through. Obviously I'm on the tail end of that with my three oldest, but it's a shame that that most of us take stock in our lives after something like that happens, and we don't do it sooner. But also within that, there's also, if we take stock in our lives sooner, do we wind up being maybe selfish and, not concentrating fully on the people who we're supposed to be here for? It's an interesting dichotomy. Speaking of which, how are the boys? How's Josh?
They're great. And my husband's great. Like, this is one of the coolest times, I think, as a family. And that's one of the things that I think the good things about COVID is that it pushed us to have to cut out a lot of stress that we didn't realize was stress, like going everywhere and being all involved with so many things and saying, well, it's just us.
Yeah, I know. It's like with everything going on and everything that you have to tackle, you almost have to be a little bit leaner and choosy in the things that you do address because there's just not enough resources to tackle everything that you'd like to. If we can, I want to go back to the track State of Me. You have been friends with Skillet for a long time. You have toured with them on multiple occasions. So what was that like writing with them? Because they have like a certain, formula, a very like a rally crying kind of, the classic kind of feel to it. So what was it like actually writing with them?
Well, it's easy. I mean, that's the cool part about it is that there's things that make it easy just to be friends with them. Because we have unique commonality. Our uniqueness is that we have kids on the road and we're trying to we're trying to still walk and teach really the roots of our faith at the same time as being like in the middle of people who care nothing about your faith and actually sometimes are antagonistic. And so we have this constant commonality between us of so how's it going for you with your kids? And everything. I remember, I don't know, I just remember some really cool conversations with their kids, even just when they went out with Papa Roach and what their kids were, how their kids had a relationship with Jacoby during that time and how we had already, met them and did festivals with them too. And already just the weird things that kind of lined up having kids out on the road and the different there's just a lot in common in that area, friendship wise, relationship wise, and our families clicking, my kids call John Doggy and he's like a superhero to them, he's like Batman. I really think he's Batman, actually. I think they think that. So there's a lot of cool things relationally, and that makes the music natural.
Right.
And so, I worked with people I don't know, and you have to get to know them. And in the beginning, it's always awkward until you kind of get a little bit more familiar with each other. And then you're like, okay, I get how you work, or, because music is an intimate thing. It's supposed to be a creative process. It's supposed to be an overflow of your heart, right? It's supposed to be. And so when you said the formula, it's interesting because there is a formula aspect with Skillet. They do things different. They actually go for music. They just, Corey gets up every day and is writing. And she always has ideas. Me, I don't know what I'm doing. I really don't. I don't know, but when she turns on the microphone and puts some music there, I'm like, it just flows out, but because she set it up, that's why it's flowing out. For me, it's I'm trying to figure out what to feed my kids for breakfast. And remember when they had a bath the last time and trying to figure out, I don't know. I don't know. I'm really one thing at a time kind of person. So the kids era of my life is really consuming in my, it's really all about.
But isn't that just the natural way, though? I mean, when you vibe with somebody and you guys share commonalities, that you're more apt to be able to understand each other and work together and kind of mold with each other from a creative standpoint. But that's cool. I want to go to the subject of this generation and. Because so much of the song speaks to this is kind of the despair that so many kids today feel being in this pandemic. Just the idea of the fact that so many rites of passage have been stripped away from them. Graduation, prom, dating, working to achieve, that first car, and, go on your first date and your prom and your junior prom. And it concerns me and it scares me that all of this stuff that everybody else had their share in has been taken away, and what it might do to them in the future.
That's true. I noticed that with a lot of the people around us. I remember a kid that I loved not getting a graduation and not getting, the prom and all the things that they were supposed to get. And I remember just feeling like, what are they going to do? And they never, and that just is just different for them. Yeah. And more of a reliance on faith and family just to even get them through that. Yeah, because that has a tendency to go in a very bad direction very fast. And I hearken back to the song because it is such a prevalent thing that happens in where I'm from. Especially, there's been way too many instances of something like that happening in my town for quite some time. And that's what I mean when I say that this song is a song for this moment and in this time. I lost somebody during this time, and I find this thought in my head of like, what would I say to that person? What would I say? And not just what would I say to them, but to myself, to not end up in that place, because a lot of times we look at somebody who's going through something and we think, how could they get there? Or I would never do that, or I would never be there. And then we find ourselves there. You know what I mean? So it's like, or we see those little seeds of that in our own conversations or thoughts or whatever. And so I'm like, no, we're not going to do that. Like I have to be super intentional to be like, what am I going to say? That is there something I could sing? Is there something I could live out and actually live out right in front of my kids, so that if this lie ever comes, and I am militant about it. I mean, I talk about it in this song is a militant cry to my own self, to get out of every lie that's going to lead me to a hopeless place. That's just death on the other side, just like destruction to my heart, to my soul, to my relationships, to my, and I'm like, we're not guaranteed tomorrow. If this is it, what am I, I'm going to be militant and against that, in my own thought process. I'm going to forgive you. we're going to overcome that. I'm going to deal with that. I'm going to say, I'm sorry. I'm not going to deal with that. I'm sorry. I'm leading to a hopeless place, but I'm going to choose to focus on what I do know, not on what I don't know. And there's so many good things that I've learned. So I can sit there and focus on the things that I know are good and that I know are victorious and that I've seen the overcoming. And in this season, it feels like forever.
Yeah.
But it's just a season. I remember my kid does this all the time. He'll have like 5 minutes of a hard time and he'll say, this is the worst day ever. I'm like, you have had an amazing day. And I get really like firm with him. It's like 5 minutes have gone by and it's been hard, but the rest of the day has been awesome. Now tell me what's awesome about this day. You better start talking right now.
I wanted to share something with you because I think it's relevant to the conversation, but I was kind of reluctant to, because it's not really something that I put out there, but considering our last conversation and where we're going with this conversation, I think there's relevancy. But when about the time I interviewed you the first time, I kind of wasn't feeling myself. I was a little under the weather, and I went to see the doctor. As a matter of fact, I got sick and wound up in the hospital, and wound up that I was diagnosed with leukemia. And the reason I mention this is because when I was diagnosed, I immediately told everybody, don't worry about me. You guys need to live your life, because that's what it's all about. I told them, you need to go forward. You can't sit there and wallow and lament in what I'm going through, because you will stop living. And the truest gift that I think that you can give somebody is, to live. Their job is to live.
Wow.
and my job is to try and heal. Why stop their life? That makes no sense. There's too much of it to be lived to have somebody hold themselves up for what somebody else is going through, because the next thing they do is they turn around and half of their life is gone and their opportunities in life are gone. And for what purpose? Believe me, those mortality moments come. And when they do come, I can tell you they are dark. And when you deal with facing death, I'm reminded of it every single time that I open up a chemo bottle. All I can tell you is that you feel it. You feel the darkness and what it would not be like to exist. And I thank God for people who write, people who talk, people who sing, people who open up their heart and create music, and experiencing wind and warmth of the sun and all those wonderful things that we take for granted every single day. Those to me are the life moments. And that would make anyone who's in the pit of despair scream and reach out like you're saying in the song. I don't want to go to that place because life is way, way too beautiful.
Please write that down. I want to read it. I want to have it, but I want to read it from your perspective, because your perspective carries authority because of what you walk through. And so if somebody else can say that and people are like, yeah, you don't get it. But when you say it, it's like, pay attention.
Well, I mean, because that's how that song spoke to me. We've come at this, through two different experiences, but that whole rallying cry of what we've gone through, obviously, that's how that song spoke to me.
Thank you, Lord. I don't know. What's weird about the song too is that I'm glad you're saying that, because I'm not in a mood to listen to a heavy rock song right now. I want to listen to some kind of 20s jazz or like classical or something. It's a lullaby.
Yeah.
Give me peace. And I'm like, I don't want somebody screaming at me. But then when and then we wrote this a long time ago, and the guys who helped set all this up with Fuel record, distributors, they love the song. They're like, this is the one, and it's really not the one I would have picked. But also, I kind of want to hibernate a little bit. And so I wouldn't have picked any probably. So I kind of was like letting go of like, I don't know, but if you guys know, I'm trusting you guys, and my husband too. And so I feel like you saying there was the time, like I keep hearing that, like that's the word of the day. It's like, this is time. It's time for the song. And so I'm just trying to say yes. I'm not going to say I'm really smart and I knew that and that's what my intentions. Like I really don't know. I don't know. I'm just trying to say yes. And that's the cool thing about choosing to be alive, is that you get to see the synchronicities and you're like, wow, I couldn't have done that. This is a gift, like what that open-handedness is a miracle coming here,
Oh yeah. Now, last year, you released The Decree, and I saw that performed live. And, of course, now this year you have already State of Me. How much do you have already to go to complete a full-length record, and when is it coming out?
No, yeah. I mean, I wish it was done. Again, there's a timing issue, and I think it'll come out when it's supposed to, but I do believe it's going to come out around the summer. There are several songs written, and there's others, but they're in their mutation form, mutation process. So they're still changing. This song, I don't think was finished. I mean, it came out before I was done. I mean, my husband was like, we just put up a trailer for the video for the song. Yeah. Or whatever. And I was like, wait, why? And he's like, because it's coming out. And I'm like, is it done? I would have added a solo in there, a guitar solo, which there wasn't. I was like, but we didn't even put a solo in there. He's like, well, it didn't need it. And I'm like, okay. My husband is like the one who does the solo. So if he didn't want to do it, what can I say? But I really pushed him on that for The Decree. I'm like, no, you need to do a solo right here. This is going to be awesome. For me, honestly, I don't ever tell people this, because we're talking about it, particularly the solo idea. To me, when we did The Decree, there's a there's a scripture that says that that the musicians were to prophesy on their instruments. And I thought that was really powerful sounding. I'm like, you can prophet, like you're speaking through the notes, and that's kind of something we know, but then you can actually like speak. I remember this with Dimebag one time in an interview. They're like, where does that come from? And he just goes, like he points to God. And I'm like, there are times when you sort of like relax and it's coming from somewhere else, And so, but my husband, I remember when I saw him play, we were not even dating, and he started playing guitar. I was like, oh, I can't watch him do this. This is too much. It's just it's so emotional. Like his playing is really different. And I noticed that with Corey Cooper, like when she plays the keyboard, it's different. I mean, I can hit the same thing on the keyboard. It's a keyboard, you're hitting the same thing. But when she does it, it's like you get the chills and you're like, why? It's just like those notes. But there's just something, I don't know. So that's why for me, I want to find that space a lot of times. And it's not a formula, but it also is this kind of like, what do you have to say? What is going to come out that's just you, in this song, that it wouldn't be different. It wouldn't be the same without your input,
Can I tell you, Lacey, that exact same thing happened to me? I was doing something creative and it got to the point where I was pushing to get it done, but it was trying to do it in my time and not his, and the project went south. So that being said, have you ever had a moment where you were in the process of writing a song and you felt that you were pushing and you had to actually stop, put it all down and say, you know what, this is not how this is supposed to go, and I'm not letting him in right now?
Yeah. I love that you acknowledge that, because it's not, I mean, again, it is an intimate thing. Music is, it can be a formula. It can be sterile. You can listen to that, everything perfect, and nobody cares. Then you hear Neil Young sing all off key and you're crying. Like it is something different. It's there is a moment when it's gone, and usually it's when you try to harness it. It's usually when you try to make it perfect. I'm not interested in that, and I'm not inspired by that. And that is how I am, because I really don't know anything about music. I'm learning a little bit, usually for the first time in my life. I'm learning some notes. My sister-in-law's father is a great jazz piano player. He's amazing, and he's in his 70s, and he just he had a near-death experience recently where he's just like zealous for life. And I'm like, my kids like do music lessons with his wife, and they do it together. And I'm just waiting there while they do their thing. And then I realized he does lessons, and then I'm like, I always want to learn to play the piano. So I said, would you teach me? And he's just like so excited. So I'm kind of the same level as my 7-year-old right now. And I'm learning, but I've never known how to read music. I've never known, I just play by ear, and I've never been taught anything. So when it gets real technical, I'm out. Like, I'm just like, okay, I'll come back whenever it's over, because I don't get it. And but the inspiration comes when I relax, in my brain and in my heart. And when I'm really sad or really angry or really hopeful or really like, I just inspired by, it's some other place, that it comes out of. And so it's really cool you acknowledge that, because there is a moment when it goes south and people try to really harness it. Yeah.
Look, I know time is pressing and you got to go. I could talk to you for hours. So I just wanted to say thank you so much.
Yeah, we should hang out sometime. Anyway, Lord help us to meet up one day soon. Amen.
I would very much like that again.
Thanks. Great talking to you.
Be safe.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Hi, this is Lacey Sturm, and you're listening to 99 WNRR.